Welcome back to the Bills Bunker, everybody. I'm Jake Varco, and this is the second edition of Table Smash Tuesday. We've got a lot to talk about today. Some good news, some bad news surrounding the Buffalo Bills over the last week since the last time we spoke on this live stream last Tuesday at 7 p.m. Reminder, every Tuesday, 7 p.m., I'll be right here on the Bills Bunker for this Table Smash Tuesday. So I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more content coming your way, more live streams, all that good stuff. Let's dive in. First, it's time for the intro.
Go Bills.
Look at this. Look at this crowd. Look at this.
Yes, it makes us want to shout. Shout.
1, 2, 3, 4 years in a row. AFC East champion in our division. Let's go.
This guy's shirtless. He's dropping in.
Let's go.
That's a nice show for you. Look at it. It's beautiful. Honestly, one of the best things I've seen all night. Those fireworks right there.
Those train horns get me fired up. I love it. Here we go. Table Smash Tuesday, episode number 2. As you see in the title, Buffalo Bills news and 2024 NFL draft preparation. There's been some minor news surrounding the Buffalo Bills over the last week. We'll start off with, I guess, the saddest news of the week. But first, we'll get to the comment section. We got Daniel Rojas in here. Let's go. Table Smash Tuesday. Will Smith is back, the celebrity from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right here in the comment section. Love to see it. The first news that we're going to get to is a retirement, and that would be the retirement of Damien Harris, former Buffalo Bills and New England Patriots running back, retired at just 27 years old. And if you remember, Damien Harris, he signed with the Buffalo Bills last offseason, and he didn't really play very much with the team this year. In Week 6, he suffered a neck injury against the New York Giants, and they had the ambulance come out, cart him off, and it was just really an unfortunate bounce for him and an unfortunate bounce for the Buffalo Bills. Their depth chart at the running back position, it was really narrowed down. They brought in Leonard Fournette after Damien Harris. He was out, and then obviously I feel like that definitely had an impact on him announcing his retirement. It's unfortunate. We're going to take a look at the career numbers for Damien Harris. And Harris, I mean, he didn't do too much during his time in Buffalo because he played in 6 games with the team. I think he had 1 touchdown with the Bills in 2023 last season. His career stats right here, 5 seasons, only 5 seasons, 27 years old. Played in 44 regular season games with 2,188 rushing yards and 21 total touchdowns. And a good chunk of those came against the Buffalo Bills with the New England Patriots. I remember I was at a game in 2021 with a buddy of mine. He's probably watching the show right now. It was against the New England Patriots. And it was that game when Mac Jones, he completed 2 passes on 3 attempts. And they just kept running the damn ball the whole game. And this right here, this is the play that I remember most from the career of Damien Harris. This one stands out from the rest for me. Yeah, that was tough. Damien Harris seemed to always torch the Buffalo Bills, and it's unfortunate for him that he had to call quits. That right there was a 64-yard touchdown run in a Patriots victory on Monday Night Football in the 2021 season. But we all know that the Buffalo Bills, they ended up beating the Patriots in what was a perfect offensive game. They didn't punt the ball once. They didn't have a single kick that was an attempt for a field goal either. It was just touchdowns the whole game. They put up 47 points in that game. That was amazing. So Damian Harris, it's unfortunate for him that he had to call it quits, hang up the cleats at just 27 years old. But that's the way that the game goes. Obviously, especially when you're playing such a physical position, the running backs, they're getting hit. They have short careers. That's just the way it is. I'd like to take a moment to encourage you to smash that like button. Smash that like button. Helps out the channel in a big time way. Share this video. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's get some more people right here in this live chat. And there's some more news surrounding this team, and there's some more positive news. So since the last time we spoke, last Tuesday, 7 p.m. on Table Smash Tuesday, the Bills, they made some additions to their team. The first addition was Mike Edwards. This was maybe not the first. Yes, it was the first addition, and it was the biggest addition of the three names that we'll talk about. Mike Edwards, former Kansas City Chiefs safety, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers safety. Let's take a look at some more of his stats last season with the Kansas City Chiefs. 17 games played, so he played in all 17 of the regular season games. Just 5 starts, 1 interception, 51 total tackles with 2 tackles for loss, 2 fumble recoveries, and 1 touchdown. So Mike Edwards, he's a bit of a playmaker out there. He's a playmaker, and the thing that I like the most about Mike Edwards is the fact that he has that winning experience, winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in 2020. He was on Tom Brady's team. He wins a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs in 2023 with Patrick Mahomes. Now he's bringing his talents over to Buffalo to play with another talented quarterback by the name of Josh Allen. Maybe he brings those Super Bowl winning those fortunes over to Buffalo, and that would just be a spectacular thing because the city, they really need a Lombardi trophy. Buffalo needs a Lombardi trophy. Josh Allen, he's too talented not to win a Lombardi trophy, and Mike Edwards, he's got a couple of them. Maybe bringing those fortunes over to Buffalo is a possibility. I mentioned he only started in 5 regular season games last season. However, he started in both the Super Bowls that his teams played in. So he is someone with that experience playing in the big-time game, in the big-time moments when the lights are shining the brightest, he makes plays. And an example of a play that he's made is right here. I think he's going to fit into Buffalo in a great way. Check this out. This is in the wild card round earlier this season. Mike Edwards picks off Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, he's going to fit into Buffalo great. You do that against Tua here in Buffalo, you're going to be loved. You're going to be loved. It's obviously going to be hard to replace Jordan Poyer and potentially Micah Hyde. We'll talk about him soon because there was some discussion about him at the NFL's annual offseason meeting. But Mike Edwards, I think he's a big addition for this team. He brings that championship experience. He brings some veteran experience over to the Buffalo Bills. And former Kansas City Chief, you're also adding by subtraction, taking a player away from your opponent, making your team better, making them worse. I'm all for that. I really love this addition. A great signing by the Bills. I'm curious to know what you think about the addition in the comments. Let me know. Let me know what you're thinking. And Will Smith says they still need that synergy. And yeah, they do need that chemistry. So the thing about the chemistry at the safety position is that you look at Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. You had those two playing safety for 7 years together. That safety tandem was one of the best in the National Football League for years. You're not going to have 7 seasons of a safety tandem. Most teams don't have that. That is such a valuable thing to have. It's a real rarity to have Poyer and Hyde, 2 safeties playing together for 7 seasons. And Brandon Beane touched on that at the NFL's annual offseason meetings in Orlando the other day. It's just such a rare thing to have. The Bills were definitely fortunate to have it, but now they need to replace that. They need to replace all that production, and this is something that they're trying to do with the signing of Mike Edwards, and I think they may go ahead and draft another safety. I don't think it would be a bad idea at all. Another signing that the Bills made, because there were definitely some holes on this team, and we've passed the first tier of free agents. Like, we saw the first tier of free agents go already. The Bills added names such as Nicholas Morrow. They added Curtis Samuel. Matt Collins. But then there's that second tier of free agents, the players who are left. And then there's a third wave of free agents. And in the second tier of free agents, the Bills made a few signings. We just talked about Mike Edwards. Now we're going to talk about this guy right here, one of the best names in the National Football League. Clap it up for Will Clapp. Will Clapp. So, you want some more information about this guy? That's what I'm here to tell you about. Will Clapp. His information. He's a 28-year-old offensive lineman. And he has some versatility because he can play at the offensive guard or center position, which that's such a valuable thing to have. And last season with the Chargers, he played in 75% of their offensive snaps. He missed some time due to injury, but 75% of the offensive snaps that's a lot. That's a lot. And last season, the Bills' offensive line, they were healthy. They were one of the healthiest units in the entire National Football League up front on that offensive line. Not a single starter missed a game last season on that O-line. And let me tell you, those O-linemen, they get banged up. They suffer. They suffer. Just look at Jason Kelce over in Philadelphia. That guy, he had an Iron Man streak like crazy, but his body is wearing down on him as well. So Will Clapp, 28 years old. He's got some veteran experience. He's a former 7th-round pick of the New Orleans Saints, and he's someone who he can play at center or guard. And when you look at the departures from the Bills this offseason, you had Mitch Morse, you had Ryan Bates. So Will Clapp, I don't think he's going to be a starting offensive lineman on this team. What I do think Will Clapp brings to the team is that versatility to play center or to play guard. He's going to play a similar role to what Ryan Bates played. If someone gets injured, you toss him in, and he can play at multiple positions. I'm a big O-line guy myself. I love to talk about offensive line, and I love to see offensive line additions. I think this is a great addition for the Bills' offensive line. He's not someone that's going to get talked about too much, but that's a good thing for offensive linemen, because if you're getting talked about, you're probably not doing your job right. Realistically, offensive linemen that get talked about the most are the ones that are messing up the most. Will Clapp played in 75% of the snaps for the Chargers last season. So that's durability right there. Versatility, experience. I'm all for the signing. I think it's a great addition to their offensive line. And Will Smith says the meme himself. Yes, Will Clapp. Clap it up. Clap it up for Will Clapp. Another addition the Bills made was also from the Los Angeles Chargers, but this addition was announced in a rather unconventional way. The signing, it wasn't broke by an NFL insider. No. DaQuan Jones on X, Buffalo Bills defensive tackle, veteran. He's 32 years old. He's played in Buffalo the last 2 seasons. He sent out this post on X saying, "Breaking news. The Buffalo Bills are signing the former Chargers defensive end Austin Johnson later on today, closest sources say." Now, he is obviously the close source, and he's a reliable source because this news proved to be true. I think that's hilarious. But those two players, Austin Johnson and DaQuan Jones, they've got experience together that goes back to their college days. They're both defensive linemen. Austin Johnson, here's his information right here. 6'4", 314 pounds at 30 years old, 8 years of NFL experience, only 8 career sacks. So he's not a massive addition to this Bills defensive line. He's a depth signing, and you can never get enough depth on that defensive line up front. In the trenches, I just mentioned, you get banged up. There's lots of injuries in that defensive line, and Austin Johnson, he's someone that's he's going to be an extra body up front, and we know that Sean McDermott loves utilizing a lot of rotational pieces in his defensive scheme, especially on the defensive line. So what I think Austin Johnson brings to the team here, that experience, he has familiarity with DaQuan Jones. DaQuan Jones was his teammate at Penn State University, and then with the Tennessee Titans from 2016 to 2019. So those guys are tight. That's always a good thing to have in the locker room. The last thing you want in an NFL locker room is for people to clash. You don't want that. It's a good team building thing to bring your friends aboard. maybe there's like a little something there, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have that familiarity with other players on the team. You can read off of each other better. And I think Austin Johnson, when you look at the Bills depth chart, that defensive tackle position, you have Ed Oliver, you have DaQuan Jones, but there's not too much promise after that. Like, you need some more bodies there. And Austin Johnson, he's versatile as well. He can play defensive line. He can play at the defensive tackle, or he can play over at defensive end. He's someone that's really, like, the sacks don't mean all that much. The sacks aren't the only stat for defensive linemen. There's something that got talked about the most. But Austin Johnson, he's not a Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, obviously. This is a guy who he's going to come in and he's going to try to eat up blocks and free up the linebackers. That's something that it's really important to do. It's really important for sure. The Plague is in the chat, says hi. I'm not trying to get sick, but welcome back to the channel, The Plague. How's it going? Happy to see you here. What about what, Joseph Clark? What about Austin Johnson? Yes, so I think it's a good addition, but earlier this week I released a grade for the Buffalo Bills offseason so far, and I gave them a B. I'm curious to know what your grade would be if you were to send in a report card for Brandon Beane. Let me know in the comments below. We've got some other news here to talk about before we transition into some draft talk, some draft preparation, and all these signings, these second-tier signings, are really helping Brandon Beane in terms of his draft preparation, filling out some extra holes. And when you fill out those extra holes, it really frees up your ability to draft the best player available, which is the motto of Brandon Beane over the last few seasons when it comes to the draft. He just wants to draft the best player available, whoever falls to him, whoever's available. You don't want to reach on a player just because of the position he plays, because you have a hole there. I think the Bills have done a pretty good job so far this offseason at bringing in players and filling needs that they have going into the draft ahead of time. But another player, a classic, a player that we mentioned earlier, we haven't dove into it too much, is Micah Hyde. Yes, Micah Hyde. So Brandon Beane at the NFL offseason meetings earlier this week, I'll show you what he had to say about Micah Hyde. And everyone thought that Micah Hyde was going to retire, but maybe not.
I don't know if he's made a 100% decision either way. Talking to his agent a little bit, I've talked to his agent since I've talked to Micah. I don't think he's shut the door yet. I think it's still open, and we definitely wouldn't shut the door, to ever bringing a Micah Hyde back if he decides to play. I don't know truly, if he's 100% one way.
So, what's that tell you? To me, that tells me that the door is indeed open for Micah Hyde to return to the Buffalo Bills here. I think if Micah Hyde wants to play, the Buffalo Bills will do everything in their power to bring Micah Hyde back. He's a 33-year-old veteran. He's played in Buffalo the last 7 seasons. I'll show you something here. He signed this helmet for me on the way into the stadium. There's the autograph right there. It's tough lighting, but yeah, Micah Hyde signed that for me on the way into the stadium before a game a couple years back. And he's been around Buffalo for 7 years, a captain of the defense. He's so familiar with the defensive scheme, and he could be a valuable mentor for the players on the field. And he could also step in. And I mean, let's put it this way. I'd rather have Micah Hyde out there than Damar Hamlin. That's for sure. 100%. Micah Hyde, he's missed some time due to some injuries. He's had a couple neck stingers over the last few seasons. I've never had one, but I'm sure that's a really painful thing. It just sounds painful. So if I'm Micah Hyde, Micah Hyde could very well retire. And that could be the end of a great career. Just go down as a Bills legend. Whatever. But based off what Brandon Beane said the other day, this is a possibility. And I think that Micah Hyde would come at a cheap veteran price. It would be something that could be really beneficial to the team in so many different ways. We got Spears Bills Sports Talk in the chat. I'm curious to know your thoughts on Micah Hyde. Should the Bills bring him back? And Will Smith says age and lack of performance. Adding on to that, he says not really a good idea to get the older guys coming in for short contracts, plus with poor performance records. Yeah, so you know what? The thing that I say about Micah Hyde is the Bills, they have done a great job at managing their cap situation. And with Micah Hyde, I'm going to try to convince you, Will Smith. So here we go. Micah Hyde, 33 years old, sure. Aging veteran, sure. Neck stingers, injury history, sure. But here's the positives. Do you want Micah Hyde or Damar Hamlin on the field? I mentioned that earlier. The Bills' depth at the safety position isn't anything to write home about right now. Micah Hyde, he's been such a valuable piece for the Bills over the last 7 seasons during his time in Buffalo. He was one of the players that helped end a 17-year playoff drought for this team. Micah Hyde, he has been fantastic for the Bills. He's put his body on the line. He's done so much for this team. He really embodies what it means to be a Buffalo Bill. So I think Micah Hyde, like if the Bills can bring Micah Hyde back, if he says he wants to play and he wants to return to Buffalo, I'm anticipating it would be a pretty cheap price. The Bills can sign him, and the Bills don't have to rely on a rookie raw safety, and they don't have to go out there and rely on Damar Hamlin. They have Micah Hyde if they go out there and he returns. That would be great. I think it would be great. And I'm gonna show you my favorite memory of Micah Hyde, just in case he does retire. Hopefully he doesn't. But here's my favorite Micah Hyde play of all time. And it was against the Miami Dolphins, of course. This was amazing. Look at this onside kick, touchdown return. Yeah, that was a house call. And it was a special play. I wasn't at that game, but I imagine the atmosphere was wild for that. Anytime against the Dolphins, you know, Bills Mafia, Dolphins fans, we don't really get along too well. But that right there, that was fun. We got a question here from Highlight House Productions. Do you think Buffalo will draft a receiver even after signing Curtis Samuel? Our wide receivers are Diggs 1, Curtis 2, Shakir 3. And do you think we draft a receiver who, if we do draft a receiver, who would it be? So I'm going to do a little mock draft here tonight, actually. So this should be fun. And I do think that the Buffalo Bills will draft a wide receiver, maybe even 2 at some point in this draft. However, I'm not certain that it's going to be as high as everyone previously anticipated. Obviously, going into this offseason, before the addition of Curtis Samuel, the expectation was the Bills are going to draft 2 wide receivers in the first 3 or 4 rounds, with 1 being in the first round. I'm not so sure that happens anymore. But what I will say as well is with the additions of Mike Edwards, Will Clapp, Austin Johnson over the last week or so, they now have less holes here. They don't have as many holes, so they can really address whatever position they feel is best. And I think that it would be a good idea to go out there and get a wide receiver, just based off the fact that Diggs is aging. Curtis Samuel, we can anticipate what he's going to bring to the Buffalo Bills because he's played with Joe Brady in Carolina, and he's a playmaker out there. He can do a bunch of different things. And Brandon Beane have mentioned that expect to see him, like you can expect to see Curtis Samuel in the backfield as well this offseason. So I think the Bills, it's definitely a possibility that they go out and draft a wide receiver. But like I said, we're gonna do a mock draft here. And Joseph Clark says maybe dump Diggs. We're not gonna get into that again. We did this Diggs talk last week. Diggs isn't going anywhere. Diggs is not going anywhere. This is just a silly thing. I don't even want to talk about it. The cap situation, it's not possible to trade Stephon Diggs. Right now, these are my remaining needs for the Buffalo Bills ahead of the NFL draft that is now under a month away. I have secondary there. I don't have specific defensive back, cornerback, or safety. I have secondary as a whole because that secondary, I mean, I don't have too much faith in it right now. I like Rasul Douglas a lot, but his contract expires at the end of the season, and the Bills have yet to extend him to a contract beyond next season. So there's potential that he leaves. You don't want your top corner to leave and not have a backup option there. The Bills have Kai Elam. They have Cam Lewis. They re-signed Taron Johnson, extended his contract rather. At the safety position, Taylor Rapp, Mike Edwards, DeMar Hamlin, maybe Micah Hyde returns. There's a lot of question marks with that secondary for me. Offensive line, they added Will Clapp, but I want more. I want more offensive linemen, and that's because you lost your starting center in Mitch Morse. Ryan Bates, he was traded to Chicago. You need offensive line depth. What the Bills have right now up front, there's not enough offensive line depth for an entire NFL season. Sure, it would have worked last season, but that was an anomaly because you're not going to have a healthy offensive line for a full 17-game season, 2 years in a row, plus playoffs. Defensive line, we touched on this a little bit. Austin Johnson, Daquan Jones, Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, AJ Epinesa, but there's no Leonard Floyd now. Sure, you still have Von Miller, but there's a lot of question marks about what will his production be like next season. And I have wide receiver on there still because I think the Bills need to add some more depth at that position. Whether that's early or late in the draft, that remains to be seen. And I think that really depends on who falls to this team. Who falls to the team at their draft position. Big Norm. Big Norm. Oh, those are some cute doggies in your picture. Agree 100%. I like it. I like it. Highlight House Production. He says, the three receivers I see potentially being available at a pick are Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., and Troy Franklin. Which one of these players would be the best fit in our offense and overall be the best? I think Troy Franklin would be a great fit, but I see him playing a similar role to Khalil Shakir. Like, he's very speedy. I think you got a big body with Brian Thomas Jr. I really like the idea of getting Brian Thomas Jr. He can be a great deep threat for this team. So I think that's a good possibility. But you know what? Let's do this mock draft. We're talking a lot about the draft, and in the title it says draft preparation. So let's do this thing. Let me just get my screen share and all that good stuff here. Share screen. Let's do this mock draft. Never done one of these lives. Should be experience. All right. Hopefully you see all this. Let's check this out. Yep. All right. We're set up. We're golden. We are golden to do this. And we have a Chiefs fan in here. I think JPJ, it's a possibility. Let's see how this mock draft plays out. Highlight House Production. Is it a mock draft, all picks, or just Buffalo? I'm going to be controlling Buffalo, and the way this works, we'll look back at how this first round really plays out, but it's going to be a 4-round mock draft, and let's do it. Let's do this thing. So I'm going to control the Buffalo Bills 4 rounds at a normal speed, and we're going to enter this draft. All right, so Caleb Williams, first overall. Big surprise there. Drake May, Jaden Daniels. Yep, no surprises so far. Wow, this is actually slower than I anticipated, but here we go. Brock Bowers, tight end to the Indianapolis Colts. Kool-Aid McKinstry. There goes Brian Thomas Jr. And just so you know, for this mock draft, I'm not going to be trading down. I might trade down, but I'm not going to make trades. You know what? No trades. Although I'll check out what they offer. Yeah, no. We're good. We're good. Let's stay put. Hide all these trades. All right, so we're on the board right here, right now. I think this is interesting. So, who do we have available? I really like Xavier Worthy. That's a real speed guy there, too. Keon Coleman. You got a bit of a deep threat, Mitchell, Bone. Interesting. Sweat is interesting to me. He's not going to be available later in the second. Well, yeah, he's not going to be available in the second round. I want you guys to grade my mock draft here too, and let me know your thoughts here. Troy Franklin is available. See, I really feel like a bigger need for this team right now, for the present moment, is on the defensive line. Because right now you have DaQuan Jones, but after that, there's a lot of DaQuan Jones and Ed Oliver, but there's a lot of question marks on that defensive line. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Sweat out of Texas, defensive tackle. And Keon Coleman goes the very next pick. All right, so our next pick is at pick 60. I'm curious to know what all you're saying. Dylan says F-. Wow, already? That was quick. That's unfortunate. F-. Wow. What can I do to make that grade better? We're just going to hide these trade offers. All right. So, I think Xavier Legette is an option. Wide receiver. Cole Bishop at the safety position. We added to our defense with the first pick. So, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's pick Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina. And after this mock draft, this 4-round mock draft is done, we'll go over all these picks that were made. So we don't have a 3rd-round pick because that was traded to the Green Bay Packers for Rasul Douglas. We got a 4th-round pick back in exchange as well. So we should have 2 4th-round picks on the board here. Let me just confirm that. Yes, we have pick 128 and pick 133. Let's see who's available then. We drafted a wide receiver. We drafted a defensive tackle. What else is available here? Wow. It's taken a while to get down to pick number 128. Hope everyone's having a good night tonight. All right, Minnesota. Nope, I'm not doing trades. Blake Karam. I know who I want. I'm just looking for him. Yeah. There's my guy right there. I passed by him. You know what? I'm going wide receiver again. Taking Luke McCaffrey. I want those bloodlines in Buffalo. Bring those family ties to Buffalo. And we'll talk more about Luke McCaffrey in a minute. All right, pick 133. We got 2 wide receivers. We got a defensive tackle. What else should we add to the Buffalo Bills? I think another offensive lineman. That's how I'm feeling about this. See what's going on in the comment section. Not too much right now. Not too much. Leave your grades by the end of this, though. All right. We could get an edge rusher in Javon Solomon, or we could go out and get an offensive lineman. I think the bigger need after selecting we selected a defensive lineman in the 1st round. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and take Mason McCormick, offensive guard out of South Dakota State. And that right there is our 4-round mock draft. So defensive tackle, Sweat from Texas. You got wide receiver Xavier Legette from South Carolina. Wide receiver Luke McCaffrey. I love that one. And offensive guard Mason McCormick. So some of you might think, why does this guy love Luke McCaffrey so much? I really think this is a possibility that the Bills draft Luke McCaffrey, and I'm not just saying this because I want them to. I think it's an actual possibility that the Bills go ahead and draft a Luke McCaffrey because think for a second. Who was in Carolina when the Buffalo Bills selected, or who was in Carolina when the Carolina Panthers selected Christian McCaffrey? Think. The answer is Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane was over with the Carolina Panthers when they drafted Christian McCaffrey. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go ahead and pick the other McCaffrey, Luke McCaffrey. And this is a thing that happens. It is a legitimate thing that happens. Just look at Andy Reid. He took Jason Kelce in Philadelphia, and then he adds Travis Kelce over with the Kansas City Chiefs. He had to ask Jason Kelce if it was a good idea or not first, but he did it. And this is a real thing. Player relationships with their general managers or with their coaches, that does have an impact on whether a team will draft a player or not. And those bloodlines, for me, I think it's a good thing. Joseph Clark says Luke McCaffrey is a risky pick. I'm curious to know why. But with that mock draft, so you got 2 wide receivers. And something that Brandon Beane is big on, it doesn't even have to be a wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills to go out and add to their offense. They might just add offensive weapons. We've seen that in the past few years. James Cook, Dalton Kincaid. People wanted a wide receiver in the first round last year too, but they went out and got Dalton Kincaid, tight end. Plays a lot like a wide receiver. So the Bills just add some weapons. I think getting 2 wide receivers here, it's not a bad idea. You get Luke McCaffrey. You get Xavier Legette, 2 wide receivers to add to your depth chart. You have Diggs now. You have Shakir. You have Curtis Samuel. You have Legette. You have Luke McCaffrey. And then other offensive weapons you have include Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, James Cook, and whoever else the Bills take or add at the running back position, plus Ty Johnson. Oh, and I'm not even mentioning Josh Allen. Josh Allen's legs, plus all those weapons, seems unstoppable to me. So I think it's a good idea to go ahead and add some of those wide receivers. There's a lot of wide receivers in this draft. There's a lot of value at the wide receiver position. And I think another player with bloodlines, Brendan Rice, obviously his father, Jerry Rice, he's the GOAT wide receiver, in my opinion. And I'd be hard-pressed to find someone that disagrees with me on that one. Jerry Rice, greatest receiver of all time. So his son, like these players that have bloodlines in the NFL, they definitely have a distinct advantage. Marvin Harrison Jr., Brendan Rice, Luke McCaffrey, they already have that household name attached to them. So I think it automatically raises their draft stock a little bit, but it's for good reason because they've been in a football environment their entire life. I'm sure they hung out in the locker rooms. They saw championship teams. They saw what it takes to win, and they've seen the development and what goes into the game. Sledge Hockey 101 says risky picks hitting makes a championship team. You're right. You're right. Let me think about something. Well, let's all think about something here. A risky pick that the Buffalo Bills made. You know where I'm going with this. Pick number 7 in the 2018 NFL Draft. Josh Allen. He was described as a raw talent. He was described as inaccurate, a project. Well, how'd that work out for the Bills? Risky pick, it really worked out. I'm getting a grade of a B. That's a lot better than the F. B+, a lot better than the F. Dylan, come on. Can you bring the grade up now? I'm not sure. We'll see. But I'm curious to know, how do you feel about that draft class? I like those higher grades more, but I think the thing about this upcoming draft, so I added the 2 wide receivers. And then I added in the first round, I added Sweat, defensive lineman out of Texas. I think there's a couple defensive linemen that are projected to go in the late first round, early second round here. And when you look at the team that the Bills have, I've mentioned Daquan Jones. He's great. He plays a similar role to Vince Wilfork. Obviously, he's not Vince Wilfork. He's not that legend status, but he's a valuable asset, and he's been injured at times in each of the last 2 seasons. He's 32 years old. He's not going to last forever. He's just not. Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver is a great player, but he can add to my point. We've seen Brandon Beane draft defensive linemen early, quite frequently. Look at Ed Oliver, first-round pick a few years back. Greg Rousseau, first-round pick a few years back. AJ Epinesa, second-round pick in 2020. Brandon Beane is no stranger whatsoever to selecting defensive linemen in the early rounds, and I think there's a good chance that he does it again, especially when you look at how the defensive line is constructed right now. No Leonard Floyd. We don't know what Von Miller's going to do for the team next season. And like I said, Daquan Jones is aging. Austin Johnson, he's a depth piece. Ed Oliver, he's good. But there's just not enough there for me to fully buy into the defensive line and not picking up someone in the early rounds. I think it's still a need for this team. And I also went with McCormick out of South Dakota State, an offensive lineman. Sure, we added Will Clapp to the offensive line, but Will Clapp doesn't make up for the loss of Mitch Morse. It doesn't. It makes up for the loss of Ryan Bates, sure. But the team needs to add to that offensive line. They added Osiris Torrance in the second round last season. Torrance, he's great. He was great in his rookie season for the Bills. But you need to draft and develop at the offensive line position. Dawkins, he's starting to get up there in age. What if one of these guys goes down with injuries? God forbid it. But what if these guys goes down with injuries? You need someone to plug in there, and you need that young depth. I think it would be a good idea to add in the trenches on both offense and defensive side of the football. Add to your wide receiver core. And then in the later rounds, find some value in the secondary. Because the secondary, what we have isn't enough. Dane Jackson's gone. Tre'Davious White's gone. Jordan Poyer's gone. There's not enough bodies in the secondary. There's not enough bodies in the trenches. And you need some more wide receivers for the future. Because Diggs, he's aging. You need some more wide receivers. And the more weapons for Josh, the better. Popeye's back. Popeye is back saying Bills 8-9. Popeye. Let's go, Popeye. Let's go. I love seeing Popeye in here. I know you're a Chiefs fan. I saw your comment at the end of it. Kyle Bass is elite. Yep. Yeah. I'm sure you love Tyler Bass. I'm sure you do. Popeye, I like seeing you in here, but you know the Bills ain't going 8-9. You know it. It's fun. It's fun. Sledge Hockey says they need a kicker. I have this helmet signed by Tyler Bass. Is it here? I don't think it's here, but I have a helmet signed by Tyler Bass. Bills legend, right? That was just so tough. I gotta say, like that was tough. I do feel bad for Tyler Bass. Like he got married recently, and if you look at the comments on that Instagram post, not good. Not good at all. Will Smith says, that's what I'm saying. They need some youngins, not old guys with short contracts. And yes, I agree that they need some more young depth, 100%, because you need to draft and develop these players, and you need to maximize the window of opportunity for Josh Allen, a superstar quarterback, to win a Super Bowl in Buffalo. How do you do that? You try to replicate what the Kansas City Chiefs did around Patrick Mahomes. Heck, they got rid of Tyreek Hill, no problem. So, yeah, you do that. But I still think bringing back a guy like Micah Hyde, it doesn't really hurt the team financially. It doesn't take away too many opportunities from these younger guys. And if anything, Micah Hyde would be a great mentor for those younger guys. Now, I did a mock draft here. Next week, I'm planning on bringing in a guest, having some more conversations with some other people, getting some other perspectives here, and probably doing another mock draft. So what I did earlier today, I made a video about Josh Allen and the quarterbacks that were drafted ahead of him. I'd encourage you to go check that out if you haven't yet. I put a lot of work into that thing, grinded getting that out, and Table Smash Tuesday. It's a fun thing. Every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. I'll be back here next week, and I really appreciate everyone that's tuned in here. I'm gonna play the intro. I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you all for watching tonight. Go Bills, everybody. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Look at this. Look at this crowd. Look at this.
Yes, it makes us wanna shout. Shout!
1, 2, 3, 4 years in a row. AFC East champion. In our division. Let's go.
This guy's shirtless. He's loving it.
Let's go. Let's go.
That's a nice show for you. Look at it. Beautiful. Honestly, one of the best things I've seen all night. Those fireworks right there.